Marsha! Everyone's talking about Rolex and how prices are declining, but what they should be talking about is This is Time is Money, where the clock is always ticking and money is always moving. I'm Thomas Hendricks with Chrono 24 in New York City. Let's look at 3 signs of the times for November 2022. We're seeing shifts in market share on Chrono 24 for watch brands in the 500 and under category. We'll take a look at who's in and who's out. Grand Seiko is on the rise. Kinda. We'll tell you what we mean in a bit. While the market values of hype watches are trending downwards, one major brand is doing more than okay. Think you can guess who? Let's start with a look at the shifting landscape for affordably priced watches. We're focusing specifically on changes in Chrono 24 market share for watches under $500. If you're a watch fan, chances are your friends have asked you for recommendations for the best watch under 500 or the best watch under 1,000, and chances are you included Seiko in that list. And while Seiko is still number 1 in Chrono 24 market share for 500 and under, they are losing ground. The brand lost 8 percentage points in the last year, but to whom? Well, the brand in second place has gained 20 percentage points this year alone. We're talking, of course, about Swatch. After all, if people are still lining up outside stores for a bioceramic moon swatch, then you better believe secondary market values are going up. We should also note that Seiko's product lineup in recent years has been creeping up and creeping out of the sub $500 segment, with price tags for Seiko divers often landing north of 1,000. Fellow Japanese brands like Citizen, Casio, and Orient are also making small dents below 500 and therefore capitalizing on this ever popular segment of the market. Watch lovers have been increasingly aware of Grand Seiko over the last few years. The brand has been pumping money into the United States and Europe to raise interest and increase sales. For example, the brand recently hosted their rather elaborate annual GS9 get-together in New York City. Grand Seiko has been referred to as the Rolex of the East for their meticulously crafted watches suitable for everyday life, although they're available at more of an Omega price level. The dials are flat out amazing, the build quality is solid, and every detail has been considered. As a result, we're seeing more Grand Seikos on people's wrists in person and online. We're also seeing them growing in market share on Chrono 24. In fact, the Elegance collection and the Heritage collection are seeing some of the biggest relative gains of any watches on Chrono 24. To be clear, Grand Seiko is not a major brand on Chrono 24 in terms of sales volume, but in terms of upward slope, the Elegance collection has seen 99% market share growth in the last year, and the Heritage collection has grown by 150% in that time. We're also seeing the brand growing in broader market share on Chrono 24 in the $2,000 to $5,000 range and the $5,000 to $10,000 range. There is a bit of a reality check though. Although mint condition Grand Seikos with their bots and papers sell for less on Chrono 24 than they do through authorized dealers, it's likely that most people are purchasing them through ADs. Also on Chrono 24, Grand Seiko is still barely in the top 20 for best-selling brands, sandwiched between Girard-Perregaux and Blancpain. That said, as awareness grows and as more Grand Seikos start floating around and changing hands, we expect to see this market share continue to swell. Marsha! Everyone's talking about Rolex and how prices are declining, but what they should be talking about is Omega. The brand is not only surviving, but thriving right now. Speedmaster references are generally holding their value, but it's the Seamasters that are actually getting more expensive this year. Now, we at Chrono 24 and others in the watch media space love to play up a rivalry between Rolex and Omega. It's not entirely necessary, but it's dramatic, and at this stage in the game, Omega is walking away with a W. Let's take a look at a few watches in particular to help illustrate. The Seamaster Diver 300M is up from approximately 4.4K to 4.8K in the last 12 months. The higher priced No Time to Die edition is up slightly from roughly 8.6K to 8.7 in 1 year's time. The Heritage Collection Seamaster 300 featuring the broad arrow hour hand is up from approximately 5K to 5.4K. The Seamaster Aqua Terra rose from 4.5 to an even 5. And the Seamaster Planet Ocean went from 5.2 to 5.8 during that same period. Like with Grand Seiko, we will provide a couple important caveats here. One is that these market prices are approximations and subject to change, of course. The other is that the Omegas we're referencing are largely selling for less on the gray market than they are at retail. These are from mint condition examples with their bots and papers. That is not the same story for Rolex, where watches are trading above retail. Still, Omega's trajectory is better than a lot of other brands and better than many market observers expected. There you have it, a snapshot of the secondary watch market for November 2022. We'll have our big year in recap in December, and we're planning a space race of sorts where we analyze the head-to-head market performance of various Omega Speedmaster limited editions, so stay tuned for future episodes of Time is Money, because time only moves in one direction, but the market does not. We'll see you next month.